So Jerome, thank you for joining us on the first Dreams of an Immigrant podcast. Really appreciate you being here. Obviously, we're in Richmond, we're at Monroe Park, and I wanted to bring you back to Richmond, not necessarily this track, but I wanted to bring you back to Richmond and take you back to either 2016 or 2018, where you decided to walk from Vancouver to Richmond after a long bus ride from Kelowna to take part in a fitness test. And what was going through your mind when you were walking from Vancouver to Richmond? Because for me, that's one of the things that stood out when I was doing my research for this podcast, is that was a moment where you persevered, the hard work, the ethic in you came out, and you were like, no, I'm getting to this meet.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been, a pleasure. I think the thing that was really going through my mind was, getting the opportunity to do something that's really cool and interesting to me is great, because you get to experience different things. And for me, it was an opportunity to do something new and change my life forever. And obviously, I didn't really realize how far it was. I just knew, I had to go. And then, I used the Wi-Fi from the bus station. And it said, it was if I take a taxi, it would have been 20 minutes, really, to get to where I need to go. Yeah. But then the walk was 42 minutes or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, I got to figure it out. So initially I did get a ride to about halfway. So then from there, it was about 30-something minutes. Yeah. So then I walked the rest of the way, walk, jog, till I got there. And it was quite cool, because once I got there, I had to go through the whole test and everything. And once I finished, because I was not Canadian, and you have to be Canadian to be able to get put into this specific program to be able to take part in it. So for me, that was a letdown in a sense, because I remember I had the fastest sprint of the day, breaking the record for that event, and I felt it was such a special moment for me, because I'm like, okay, that's going to be enough for me to get this, get put into this program. And obviously, I guess it wasn't enough. I didn't get put into the program that year. And in 2018, I was able to get my citizenship. And then immediately once I got it, I got put into the program. And it really changed my life from there on, to propelled me into this atmosphere where I'm at right now.
No, it's an amazing story. And that 4 years of 2018 to, in essence, 2021 then with the Olympics was I don't think I've ever seen anybody progress the way that you progressed in that period of time. You went from, yes, having those limitations with citizenship, but as soon as you got that, you took off.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like when you got your citizenship and you were like, right, what was your first step post getting your citizenship?
Well, I went to Kelowna, did my citizenship test, passed, and then jumped in my car and drove all the way back from Kelowna that same day back to Surrey to get sworn in the next day.
Oh, wow. Okay,
yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah, and they got yeah, it was super quick. Yeah, and they got my passport then a day later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then literally it was citizenship test on Monday, Tuesday got sworn in, Wednesday got my passport, Thursday I was on a flight going to Baton Rouge to Team Canada training camp.
Wow.
It just happened that quick.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it just happened super fast. And then, I think one of the things where a lot of people never really, rather people outside of track and field wouldn't understand, whenever you get put into a national team environment, it's new for you. It's a new situation, new environment. There's people there who've been on teams and, traveled together and stuff. So they're all friends and they all clicked up. And, for me, it was my first time going. So I made friends and, I just went from there. And then, obviously we need more time, for me to be able to gain the experience that was needed to ever get put on the track for a Team Canada relay team and stuff like that. And then through that time from 2018 till 2021, I had opportunities to run and stuff and gain the experience that was needed, because even 2019, I went to the World Championships in Doha, Qatar. A lot of people don't even know I was there, but I practiced every day. I was running really fast in practice every day, but I was told it's just not time yet.
Right.
So then all that time, I just sat, watched, practiced, worked as hard as I could. And when I got my opportunity, I made the best of it. Yeah. And then now I'm a staple in the team, and we're continuing to develop, as a team, of course, we've gotten Olympic medals and World Championship medals, and, still, it's funny to me, we often laugh about it, and actually, not just us, other people around the world, they laugh about it, and you see comments people are saying, you know exactly the 4 people or Canada is sending and bringing. Why in the hell can't you beat them? You know, or they're not running that fast on paper. How are they able to beat you guys in 4x1 when there's 4 people on a team who've gone sub 10, and our team, like, in 1 year maybe 1 person have gone sub 10, or like 2 people, or everyone's like super close. And like this year, like if you really look at it, we've all been having a rough year. So I think it's good because this really take the pressure off us as being the defending champions and going into just like as a new set of guys, just gonna make the best of the
Ready to
opportunity.
go again.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I wanted to dive a little bit into something that we were talking about before we started,
Yeah.
around kind of mentality and values and things like that. What would you say are the key values that you hold dear to yourself? Like, what are the things that you get out of bed in the morning and you go, right, I'm going to be this way. This is how I am. This is how I feel. Like, what are those core values that are with you?
The way I grew up, I grew up in Jamaica and I moved to Canada when I was 16, turning 17. But for me, it was always like, in a sense, like you grew up in an environment where everyone look up to everybody and everybody, have respect for everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like I remember, like I'll be going to school in Jamaica sometimes. Like even though there's people there, like you're a lot older than everybody else around you, but you're 16, 17 years old. That's pretty old in Jamaica as a high school kid. And if you walk past somebody that knows your parents, and you don't say good morning or how are you kind of thing, they'll go tell your parents that you were being rude to them. So that's something I grew up on, like having to be respectful to everybody. So for me, moving here, it's like second nature. So I respect all my competitors, and for me, it's just like having that mental fortitude that I'm like, yes, we're competitors. Yes, we're gonna race each other. I want to beat you, and I have the confidence. I know I'm gonna beat you, but at the same time, I respect you as a human, as a man, or as a woman, or whatever, wherever we are, any given moment. I respect everybody who's there. I respect the hard work you put in, because everybody work hard. So I'll never say somebody is terrible at something or they suck, but because I know the hard work that goes into it, all the work that I have to put into it myself. So I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Like in terms of then your time growing up and been living in Jamaica and going to school in Jamaica and then moving. Take me back to when you were like 10 years old. Right. What was Jamaica like for you back then? What was family life for you back then? Who was Jerome when he was 10 years old?
When I was 10 years old, or even younger than that, really, there never stayed home. Like I had, like my grandma would laugh about it and said I have a 9 to 9 job. Like I would leave the house or 8 to 8. I would leave the house at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I won't be back till like 8 p.m. at night. And I'll shower and go to bed and have dinner and go to bed. Then you wonder where I'm. I'll live here, in Richmond, and I'll be in Abbotsford at 10 years old with my cousins. That's 2-3 hours away from where I live. Yeah. But I'm there with my cousins. How? We either jump in cars, jump in trucks, like get a ride here and there. We go to the river, we go spearfishing, we go swimming, and then we just go, we sell the fish that we catch, and just having fun with my cousins. It was almost like, it's just like having fun all the time is like a thing. We just, it's such a blast. It's like hard to explain. It's such a blast. Like you wake up and you just go. Like it's just, there's no, because I mean, as a young kid, you can't stay home and watch TV all day. So like moving to Canada was such a culture shock for me, in a sense where you can't just up and go to somebody's house. You gotta call them and ask them, hey, can I come over? Kind of thing. With my cousins, it's like second nature. 8 a.m. Doop 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 doop. What we're doing today? So it's just like, here it's like it was a culture shock because I had to like readjust and like figure life out, in a sense where, what are we gonna do today? Where can I go? Where can I not go? What stuff can I do? What stuff can I do?
Yeah.
So that was pretty tough for me. But I mean, I've adjusted and made new friends, and life has moved on. I've lost some friends, made new friends, and it's been good. Yeah. It's been good.
Nice. In terms of like going a little bit deeper, then in terms of like that shift from being at school in Jamaica, you moved here when you were 16, 17, you finished school here, right?
Yeah.
What was that shift in culture like, and how did that impact you mentally, and what were the challenges you had to overcome to to become comfortable in Canada?
It was a lot, actually, like understanding that like you are different. You're not like everybody else here. You know, I've seen where in school, like, kids would do something to me, and and the minute I try to retaliate or do something, it's a big issue. Like, everybody finds out, everybody says, oh, like, all you want to do is pick fights. But I'm like, I'm not picking fights. Didn't you see this person, what they did to me, kind of thing. So for me, it was always just try to surround myself with people who have my back, regardless of what happens. And that was mostly family. You know, my two brothers and my mom and stuff, like, you know, and just relying on the people who were close to me. So the one thing I had to do was, you know, we had to go out and find a community to surround ourselves with, because it was never provided. So you have to go out and find that community, find friends, and, you know, meet people and make friends and meet people who are going to have your back regardless of whatever happens. And, you know, in that, I find, you know, lifelong friends and family. Like my first coach, Pat, I literally call her mom sometimes, because, like, she's been there for me from the start. There's like 2 weeks of moving from Jamaica. I met her at the track in Kelowna, just out there walking around, and now she's like literally, like, if I call her, it's like, hey, like, I'm struggling with this, she's there to help. She helped pay for a lot of stuff for me, you know, hotels and travel and stuff like that. So, you know, I remember we were having a conversation, and she said, you know, and I actually told her, like, if I ever make it bigger than where I'm at today, like, you know, my goal is to pay her back everything she spent. And she said, don't worry so much about, you know, paying me back, pay it forward. So, you know, now, like, I go out into rural communities with, you know, Wilfred and the charities that we have, Stepping Stone and Rising Stars, to pay it back forward and help kids out, you know, who want to get into track and field in whatever way we can, or just whatever sport they want to get into. You know, also doing a lot of mentorship and tutoring as well. So different things that, you know, will definitely help people, you know, just understand that we're more than just athletes. We're doing a lot more in the communities behind the scene, you know, that a lot of people don't really know about. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Like, I can definitely relate in a sense of having that person that kind of, you know, you arrive in Canada, someone that has your back,
Yeah.
someone that introduces you to a community, because, you know, I had that myself as well, moving here 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
But what was it like having Pat when, you know, because you'd been here, what, 2 weeks? I think when you met her? Probably maybe even a week, probably, something like that.
Around there. It's just after, like, literally, I got here 2 days before Canada Day. I got here June 30th.
Yeah.
2013.
There you go.
That was the arrival date.
There you go. That's the Pat anniversary.
I met Pat July 3rd.
Yeah.
Just after Canada Day.
Yeah, no, fair. But look, but what was it like having that person that can bring you under their wing and bring you into that community, of that track and field community? Because she was coaching a team at the time, right?
Yeah.
What was it? She clearly really saw the potential, and you invested in, you know, a lot in you. So what was that like, and what was that feeling like of having her there as that support?
Man, most of it's like still surreal to me, because, like, I remember we were having conversations at the track, just like we're here right now, sitting in the stands. That's exactly what it was. And this was 2016. We were sitting there talking. Like, I had a knee injury, and we were just there talking. And she said, "Don't worry about the 2016 Olympics. You're gonna go to the 2020 Olympics, and you're gonna get a medal too." And I'm looking at her like, it's 2016. That's 4 years away. I don't even know what you're talking about. And she's like, a matter of fact, you're gonna be one of the best in the world one day. Like, I see it for you, and you're gonna run sub 10. You're gonna be one of the biggest sprinters in the world. And I'm looking at her like, cool, sounds great. I don't think that's gonna happen. I never thought it was gonna happen. All this is still surreal to me. I'm still like foreign. This is all foreign to me. So, for me, I'm just, you know, making the best of the moment. And again, that's the reason why I said it's so normal for me, because I grew up here. So, like, just being here and I'm so invested in the community. So now it's just like, for me, just come back and just like see everybody. Everyone thinks like, oh man, it's Jerome. But I'm just like, oh man, it's this person.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't seen him in so long. Like, how are you doing? So everyone's surprised. I'm like, I still remember their names. I still remember how, you know, where they're from and stuff. So everyone's like surprised. You're off doing all these really cool stuff. And we see you on TV. We see you winning Olympic medals, world championship medals, and running some really fast times. We thought you'd change, but everyone's still surprised. I'm still the same person, still the dorky kid from Kelowna. I say it all the time, that's just who I am. Yeah. I'm the dorky kid from Kelowna who moved, yeah, that's it. I'm the dorky kid from Kelowna. And I love it, because it's such a great thing, because it keeps me grounded. Like, anything that helps keep me grounded, I never lose that about myself. Like, being from Kelowna, just all the moves I've made from Kelowna to Coquitlam, all the friends I have, they're still the same. All my friends from I was 16 to 17 until now, they're all the same ones. Wilfred, Ben, Al, and the list goes on and on. Nick, Nathan, it's a long list, but these are guys who've been there. I've seen all of them grow up. Hudson, like all of them. Now everyone's like lawyers and massage therapists. And then there's me. I often laugh and say I'm the poor. I'm the broke one in my friend group. Because everyone's a lawyer and everyone's doing this, and I'm just like, I'm a track athlete. There's nothing special about it. I mean, there's a lot that's special about it, but I just don't see it.
You
But
don't
they
see it
all
that way.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's pretty cool though.
It's amazing that you stay so grounded and you stay so close to those people, and clearly you have this very tight knit group around you that is there. You've all got each other's backs, and that's amazing. Just jumping back to Jamaica quickly. I mean, granted, I've not been to Jamaica.
Right.
I went to Jamaica once when I was like 1 year old, so I have no idea of what Jamaica's like.
Yeah.
But paint the picture of what Jamaica's like when you were growing up to what it's like here, where the cultural difference is massive, the demographics different.
Yeah.
Like, even when I moved here, I moved from South London in Croydon, which is probably like 65% black, to a city that's 2% black, right?
Yeah.
What paint the picture for what that's like for people, and how does that make you feel, and how did you overcome that? Because I had a hard time with that one. I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time with that one.
I had to laugh because, like, growing up in Jamaica, like a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them. I said, there's more mixed people in Jamaica than there is in Vancouver. Like, I have friends that are Chinese and they're more Jamaican than me.
Okay.
Like, speak fluent patois and they're from China. Both their parents are from China. They were born in Jamaica, but they grew up around a lot of Jamaicans, so they all speak patois. And it's just like friends from India. I got friends who are from like America. Like, they grew up in Jamaica. They're all like white kids, but they're Jamaicans. That's just what it is. And so moving here, where everyone look at you different, they're just like, oh, you're of a darker skin tone. You're black. And they separate the two. It's so different. It's like separated. Like, everyone thinks, they think such weird stuff about like being black. It's like they have all these stigmas, and like coming here, everyone's in their clique and groups and stuff like that. So you have to either create your own or fit in where you get in.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I just had to fit in where I get in high school. Once I was done that, I try to go somewhere else, find a different group, surround myself with different things. And for me, that was just the minute I was of legal age, I started going out. So I met a whole bunch of people that just likes to go out. Mm-hmm. So that was my group for a while. Then I realized, like, hey, if I want to do this track stuff seriously, I have to make new friends. So then pull myself back, surround myself with a bunch of people who are involved in the sport. So then that's what really put me on this, this path I'm on right now, and still trying to stay true to myself and try to be something else at the same time, which in terms of like, I'm trying to push the track and field Jerome and also stay true to Jerome, because the thing is, where the big divide is, where a lot of people don't understand it, is like, you get so successful to a point where you start changing, you start losing the people who keep you grounded or support you whenever stuff gets hard. For me, it's just like keeping that integrity about myself solid and keep that to 100%, because at the end of the day, like, if stuff start going bad tomorrow, I would love to know that people that see my corner is gonna have my back regardless of whatever is going on. So that's one things I love about Jamaica. Once you have like a solid group of people, they're there to support you regardless of how bad it is.
Yeah.
And then here I found that community where my guys are so solid regardless of how bad stuff is for me. They're always gonna cheer me up, support me regardless of how bad stuff is going for me.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and 100% I can relate to that as well, because moving here and you make new friends, and you like you say, like, you almost have to just fit in to start off with, don't you? You have to go down that route, and for me, that set me on a journey that wasn't right for me. So I had to, no difference what you do, you have to pull back, you have to readjust, you have to do some work on yourself, and then you have to go again and find the right people, and that's where like Cameron, who is behind the camera, he we started working together 2.5, 3 years ago, and we've done different projects, and he's one of the people where I'm just like, well, no, I know he's solid, and we've got each other, so that's awesome. You moved to Canada, you're pursuing a career as a track athlete. What are the 3 things that you learn about yourself during that process? During those 4 years where you were establishing yourself and you made it to the Olympics, what were the 3 things you learned about yourself?
I think the number one thing I've learned is I'm very impatient. I'm very, very impatient. So like in this whole sport, you have to be super patient with everything you're doing. So you have to understand, like, if you have a setback, you have to make it up. And making it up is being patient with your body, patient with your mind, and not overthink stuff. And I think I just said two more of the things that I struggle with sometimes, is like patience, overthinking, and being too hard on myself. I think those are some of the things I've learned about myself. I didn't realize how hard I was on myself until this year. Actually last year, because I was demanding so much from my body, but my body could only give me so much. Like, a lot of people they didn't even know, because I never said anything. So I ran the entire season last year with 2 fractures in my lower back. From there, I got hamstring problems. I had quad problems, but I kept competing regardless of what it was. I kept going. I kept trying. I kept doing everything I could to, make myself better. And then basically, that put my body in, under a lot of stress and duress. And then once the season finished, we try to work my body back, get healthy again, and then coming back this year, it's the same thing. I've been hurt 4 times this year, which I've had to take a week or 2 or more time off to recover. And then I'm surprised that I'm actually able to be here competing, just finished Canadian trials. So I'm actually extremely happy, that I'm actually able to come out and run the times I've ran. So it's like, I'm very happy I'm actually able to do that, but still not happy, still not satisfied, still want more. You have to stay hungry to get to the point where I want to get to. But yeah, still so much work to do, and just trying to be as patient as I can with myself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like, in terms of like people that you look at that are inspirations to you, like on and off the track, who would you say those people are and why?
I definitely say, for me, there's a lot of people, but at this point, really 3 people come to mind. My mom for one, my dad, and then like my grandma, because like my grandma was one of the ones who see me doing this stuff before I even do it. She told me, I could be good at anything I put my mind to, and that's the thing with me. I'm a very like mentally, I think a lot. So the thing is that I try to put myself in situations where I think about one thing before it happens 1,000 times in my head before I actually do it, which a lot of people say like, oh, that's bad, but I think it's a good thing. It's a good trait to have, because at least if you've thought about it, thought about how bad the thing could be, or thought about how good it could be, whichever one, you've come to the conclusion at the end of the day, like, bad or good, I've already gone through the scenario in my head, so I accept whatever happens next.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I am. That's the reason why I'm just like, I try to be, as calm as possible and just make the best of whatever moment I'm dealt.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Like, from the culture that I grew up in, with having my grandparents from Jamaica,
Yeah.
my parents were all born in the UK. I was born in the UK as well, and obviously moved here. There is an air of almost like perspective that comes with people from Jamaica, and I feel like I got a similar thing from my granddad and my grandmas as well. Like, they, were able to go through scenarios, and they were able to talk to you about different things, and say different things that prompt even different thoughts in you.
Yeah.
And you're able to take a lot away from it, and you're able to learn from it.
Yeah.
In a positive way, which is amazing. And I think you probably say, like, you don't meet people like that anymore, right?
No, you
like,
don't.
Your grandma, you can't replace your grandma or your grandpa, right?
No, you can't, because like the thing is, like, the stuff that they go through, like back in the day, like especially like back in Jamaica in like the 60s and stuff, that was rough times, for a lot of those people. So for them, like, they understand how bad stuff was. So they would teach me from like a very young age that, like, look, doesn't matter how bad something is, there's no need to complain because somebody else have it worse than you. So in my head, I've always thought about it like that. Like, I'm going through a rough time right now. Somebody else is having a worse time than me. So like, there's no need to be mad about it. The situation is a situation. You're going through it already. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out an outcome. And the outcome can either be on the good side or the bad side. It's however you want to you envision it happening at the end. So for me, it's like I envision this whole track and field thing, like, you know, being an Olympic champion in whatever event it is, just being an Olympic champion and just finishing this whole story off in the proper way.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I've viewed it, and that's how I've thought about it, and that's where I am mentally. Just my goal is to be an Olympic champion. I've never changed, never deterred, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. You mentioned then around like what your grandparents went through in the 60s in Jamaica. And granted, my grandparents moved to the UK at that point in time. And I remember a story that my granddad told me that was he went into a pub in Birmingham and he was the only black guy in the pub and they didn't want to serve him. So he kept on going back to the pub. He'd walk in with his newspaper and he'd be sitting there, but they still wouldn't serve him. And then eventually, after about a week, they served him. They gave him a beer. All of a sudden, the barriers are broken down. Everybody started talking. Everybody started, you know, I suppose, becoming his community then, right?
Yeah.
Have you got any examples of that from your grandparents, from stories that they've told you?
No, not really. But even though both my grandparents travel a lot in the 70s and 60s, both to New York, where I have some family there, they've never really told me any stories like that. Again, because it's almost like I wasn't protected from the world, but it's almost like they gave me an understanding what the world is at home. It's like, look, these are the stuff you're gonna face. This is what life is gonna be like. So either deal with it or just don't.
Yeah.
You have two choices. You deal with the world or just don't. So for me, like, my choice was to make the best of every opportunity I get and just deal with the world as it comes.
That's a great way to think. That's awesome. And I 100% I think the same way. You've got to make the best of the opportunities that are there in front of you. And sometimes you've got to put yourself in the right place to create those opportunities as well, right? Throughout your career, you've shown a massive amount of motivation, continuing to push yourself, continuing to push your body. What is it that motivates you most to continue doing what you do?
When I set out doing this, it was always like, it's almost like a joke. Me and Pat started, and she always said, like, and even Tara used to say the same thing. Tara's like one of my coaches as well. They usually tell me the same thing. It's just like, well, I mean, you don't have to fight to be the best. You just want to be a better version of Jerome every day. That's it. So that just stuck in my head and said, the only person I'm racing against is me. So if I can run a faster time than Jerome ever run, that's it. I'm happy with that. So it's just to be a better version of me every single day. And I think some people get caught up in the whole, like, oh, I want to, you know, they have to force themselves and motivate themselves. Like, you know, I don't need to do all that. Like, I already believe in me so much. Like, shit, I'm so damn cool. I laugh when I say I'm so cool. Like, if I get in the cool, I might freeze to death. Like, it's true. Like, I like me a lot. So you have to, like once you like, you believe in yourself and you like yourself enough, like, you tell yourself to do anything and it works. That's just me.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not, I know myself so well. So that's a problem with a lot of people. You have to find outside things to motivate you. The vision is already here in my head. You know, like, the stuff I want to do is going to take a lot of hard work, and I've already accepted that. For me to get where I need to get to is I need to do this, and this, and it all falls in place. So mentally, I'm already there. So it's just about to get the work done. That's it.
No, that's amazing. So when you're getting ready for a race and you're there and you're warmed up, you're stood at the end of the track.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind at that point in time?
There's cues, right? So, like, there's cues that I work with my sports psych, you know, Penny. We go over these cues so much. So it's like second nature. So I'm standing there. The only thing I'm thinking, you know, the first two things I think is just breathe. Just focus on the two lanes next to you. You know, once I do that, I run the race backwards in my head, actually, before.
Okay.
Yeah, so I try to set up, and then, like, I set up, like, you know, I try to run the race backwards. Like, I envision myself running through the line, and I go backwards.
Yeah.
Instead of go forwards, because I'm bringing myself back to the start line instead of start at the finish.
Okay.
Because, you know, if you're there and you go, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and this, then I'm gonna be at the finish line. So basically, you're already here, mentally, but physically you're there. Mm-hmm. So mentally, I reverse it. So mentally, I'm there. Physically, I'm there.
Yeah.
So I haven't run it yet. So I think that's the best way how you do it, and it has worked so far, and is yet to, you know, failed me every time I've done it that way. It's worked. So, and that's kind of something that we've come up with that works for me. No one thing works for two people. So I'd say if somebody listens to this and is a track athlete and want to like, figure out what's the best way to visualize something, that's like weeks and weeks of visualizing something before I get to the track. It's not just something where, I do it that one time. No, this is weeks of doing it. So even though you're at home, the mental work never stops. So like we have a 9 to 5 job. It's not like a 9 to 5, sorry. It's around the clock. It's 365 days a year. Like you have to, everything you do in the off season affects what you do in the fall.
Yeah.
So you have to you have your fun, you drift, you come back, you refocus, you keep going.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is. And you just have to keep doing that until physically and mentally you're in the proper place and you just go from there.
Yeah. You mentioned you work with a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
When did you start doing that, and what's been the benefits you've seen from that? Because I know that a lot of people say mental health. I prefer to say mental fitness because I think you're training your brain as much as you're training your body, right? But what's been the shift since you started working with a sports psychologist? And I mean, how did that come about to start with? But what's been the shift for you since working with a sports psychologist?
Realizing how hard this sport is. At first, I thought it's super easy, just looking from the outside in. Just like I could just wake up, roll out of bed, and run fast. Like people don't understand. Like being a professional track and field athlete is probably one of the hardest things you could ever do, because you're not just working and training and competing for yourself. There's sponsors behind you. There's people who support you. There's family and friends who look up to you, and there's other people outside influence as well that's looking. So you're not just working for you. So like, a typical travel day in a track athlete's life is like, people don't really understand this. If you live in North America, you got to fly 8-9 hours to Europe. Once you get there, you get to a specific airport. Then you got to go either a 2-3 hour flight to a next city and then drive on a bus. And you do that. You leave Wednesday, you get there Thursday, rest Friday, run Saturday.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize. I mean, I suppose naturally people don't think of the logistics of being an athlete, right? But,
No.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about that way. That's insane when you think about it like that. And the time difference, the jet lag, what that physically does to you.
Yeah. So you're working through so much in your head. So mentally, you have to be there to wake up. You wake up and your body is experiencing so much different things that you've never felt before. Your head feels weird. Your leg feels weird. Even if something doesn't hurt, just because it feels funny to you, you make a big deal out of it. So, you have to tell yourself you're okay. I remember my first time traveling overseas to compete was Doha, Qatar. It's like 11-hour difference. I was falling asleep. Like I'm falling asleep. I'm warming up and I'm falling asleep. I'm so tired. I drank three Red Bulls, and I'm still tired. Still falling asleep. So I sat on the track. 30 minutes before they said, okay, you got 30 minutes. Okay, I just jogged there, went and run. I saved all my energy because if I keep warming up, I can't run.
Yeah.
So I have, and like now it's like finding the right balance, and that's the reason why you work at the sports site, because you build such a mental fortitude. So even if I'm tired, doesn't matter what I'm going through. Like last night, I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning. Like got to the track, I like ate something, ran at 10, and then run again at 12:40. So it's just like one of these things where mentally I was tired. Physically I'm tired, but I know I have to will myself to perform. So it's like whenever you are scheduled to do something in this whole spectrum of track and field, you have to do it. Or else the stigma is you can't perform in demand. And nobody wants to be around an athlete who can't perform in demand. That's kind of how it is. So you have to just tough it out regardless of what you're going through.
So in terms of like youth and the work that you do with youth in the community, because you've got 2 organizations, you've got Rising Stars and what was the second one? Sorry.
Stepping Stone.
Yeah. How did they come about, and what is their objective overall to support youth in your community?
So basically it was during COVID. Like, I was at home and a lot of young kids who live in BC was messaging me like, hey, what are some stuff we can do at home to stay fit and stay in touch with other people? So we me and Wilfred, we got in touch and we were like, okay, we have to do something. Like, this is an opportunity to do something really cool to give back and help out the community. So what we did was we created those 2. Well, actually, one was already created. Rising Star was already an entity doing a lot of work in Winnipeg, but we decided to branch out into BC and doing a lot more work with that. But Stepping Stone was specifically created to do outreach and engagement and go out in the community. So once COVID was up, the first thing we did was we try to go out into the community, like have we call them mini sports days, where we'd either bring out a real professional athlete to let them tell their stories and do a workout with the kids. So, help motivate them to tell them, like, look, like, we are athletes. We as athletes, we struggle too. You're not the only one who went through stuff. So we're letting you know what we do and what goes on in our lives every day. So it's an opportunity to, give back to the community in many different ways. And I think that's what Stepping Stone and Rising Stars is doing right now. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So have you got, during the kind of school off period then, have you got programs coming up for kids that you're working on, or is that something that kind of, how frequently you doing that? What's the setup like?
Yeah, so right now, like, Wilfred does a lot of the logistics on that. And once I finish competing, I come home. I don't really get to have a vacation or anything like that. I come back and I instantly go to work. We fly to Winnipeg, we go to Victoria, we come to Vancouver, we go to Kelowna, playing mini sports days. So right now we're organizing about 4 or 5 right now. So we're still trying to work on the logistics of them. But that's something that we're super excited about, just to give back to the community and just let everybody know that we believe in you as much as we believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is show up in person. Like, you've seen people like, oh, reply to a message, or they don't reply to a message, or they put stuff on a flyer, or they post a video. No, I'm going physically. Like, I'm here. Like, this is me. This is Jerome, like the real person. So that's kind of, I think that's more impactful, meeting somebody in person and sending them a message. I'm not doing that. I'm going in person if I can. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, if possible, I'd love to come and do a follow-up piece on that, because I think
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of, there is definitely an issue in BC in particular for me where youth don't have enough access to sport. They don't have enough access to facilities. It's too expensive. Even soccer academies are expensive, and there's some talented kids in BC for sure.
Yeah.
So I think like highlighting that, and if we can do anything to support you in that way, I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'd love to attend one of your mini sports days.
Yeah.
Last couple questions. Favorite artist?
Right now, of all time or just in general?
All time. You got to go all time. If you go now, like most people are just gonna say Drake.
Actually, no, Drake is not really. No. I think like if we're talking Jamaica, I like 100% Vibes Cartel, and if like when I moved to Canada, like actually like I would say like I know Drake because I like the song Pound Cake. That's one of my favorite Drake songs ever. Because the funny thing is, when I just moved to Canada, that's the first Drake song I ever heard.
Oh, really?
Pound Cake, yeah. Yeah, and but now I think Travis Scott's my all-time favorite. I would say like in like North America or whatever period, like or rap or whatever, because like I actually went and seen Travis Scott at Fortune, and there's maybe 30 people there, and I was one of the 30s. So I actually got to see this guy before he become who he is. Yeah. So it's one of these things for me, like I witnessed it almost. So it's pretty cool to just say, oh yeah, I witnessed this.
Yeah, no, I know that feeling for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, living in London, like you go to gigs most nights of the week, and sometimes there can be 100, 200 people there, and next thing you know, there's 30, 40 people there, and you're seeing someone who's actually going to go and make it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Favorite movie?
Forrest Gump.
Why Forrest Gump?
I like Tom Hanks a lot for some reason, but then like just the way he played that character in Forrest Gump is just so funny. I've seen it like 5 times, and I just like some of the stuff in there, like when he's like waving to Captain Dang and shit like this. I just jumped off. It's just like just funny stuff, and like I think the next season he was running for months and then just stopped one day and decided going home.
Yeah,
like it's just one of these. It's just the silly things he does. It's just like. Yeah, I've seen the movie 3 or 4 times, and it just every time I watch it, I'm just like, man, it just gets funnier and funnier to me. So,
it's a funny movie. It's a funny movie. Favorite food?
That's a tough one, man. Like,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I miss ackee and saltfish.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Or, like I'm more of like a brown stew chicken guy myself.
Oh, nice.
Every time I go to the Jamaican restaurant, that's the first thing I order. Like, it's such a cool thing, like, or just like being around my brother, because my brother is a chef, so it's just like nice to have somebody in the family who loves to cook, other than me. So it's nice,
Cool.
So every time I go home and every time I go to my brother's, I eat good, so it's nice. So I can't do it right now, but every time I get the opportunity to, I just go and just eat. So it's nice, yeah.
No, that's awesome. So last question. What do the next 2, 3, 4 years look like for you? Obviously, we've got Worlds, Olympics.
Yep. Worlds.
Yeah. What's your vision? What are you visioning for yourself, and what are you working towards?
Personally, just continue to develop. That's a key thing, you know, like, because in this sport it's about longevity, and like when it comes to training age and the amount of years that's on my body, like training wise, I'm a baby compared to most people because I've only been training as a professional for 3 years. So before that, I was out here like it's funny, like when I tell people how I used to train here, they laugh and say you're lying, and I said no, it's true. Like I would skip training, I'd go to training maybe 3 times a week, if that. So like I remember when I was younger, Pat, after she called me in the mornings, like, you got to come to training, or she would text me like the night before, you got to be at training tomorrow morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be there. Probably still didn't show up, anyways. But it's like one of these things where, like, before that, it's just like, because I knew I was just so good. So it's almost like in my head, I just didn't need to train. But the minute somebody was too close, or the odd time where somebody would beat me when I was younger, I'd be at training before everybody else, and I'm leaving after everybody else because I need to get my leg back. That's kind of how I see it. But then now it's just like I'm learning so much, and I'm starting to understand that, like, there's more to this whole sport than just what you're seeing in front of you right here. You know, there's more to it than just running fast and just making your body strong enough to run fast. You know, just going, like, how do you come back from a setback? What your mindset should be. You know, just how hard you got to work to get to the top. And being at the top is not stable. You know, being at the top is almost like standing on stilts. You can fall at any time. Because I remember last year I'd wake up and roll out of bed and run fast. But then you have a big setback, so you have to work your way back. And again, it comes right back to the thing of, you know, trying to be patient and try to understand that, like, you know, you have to work really hard to get to where you need to get to. So it's kind of how it is at this point, you know. I'm going through that process of coming back and working on get my body strong enough to be able to be that guy again. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
No, that's awesome. Well, look, I want to just extend a massive thank you for you taking part in this first episode. I think you're a huge inspiration to a lot of youth out there. You're an inspiration to me since we started chatting and since Carling introduced us. You know, I've followed you closely. I've read your story. I've listened to your story on podcasts before and on different videos on YouTube. And you are a huge inspiration to a lot of youth out there. And you know, it's a pleasure to sit with you and chat with you, and it's a pleasure to get to know you and now call you a friend as well.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And honestly, like, you know, for me, this podcast is about building community. It's about shining a light on people in the community that are doing amazing things. And I think culturally here, for me, I think, you know, we want to inject a little bit of a culture shift and make sure people know about the people that are doing amazing things, and make sure people know that you're running youth camps and running mini sports days, because there's a lot of kids out there that still don't know. Yeah. So honestly, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.